Hello, everybody. Eric here with my weekly wrap up video for the week of December 1st through December 7th. As far as channel content goes, um, on last Monday I posted my review for The Thicket by Joe R. Lansdale, and on Friday was The Visitor by Chauncey G. Parker III, which was the last of my books that have been made into movies. I read 5 books, all that had been made into movies, and The Visitor was the last one of those. And of course, a Reading Remembrances video, and that's it. Nothing else. Nothing special last week as far as channel content goes. Reading. I finally got back into reading after the Thanksgiving week where we had visitors and sickness and all sorts of stuff going on, and I didn't get any reading done really, just a couple pages here or there, but I got back to it, and so I finished up the book I had started, which was Red Sonja by Gail Simone, with that boring cover. So I'll be recording a review for that shortly, and then after that I read Black Ambrosia by Elizabeth Engstrom, part of Valancourt's Paperbacks from Hell, as I read through all of the paperbacks from Hell that Valancourt has published. And I am currently on the first book in my next book bundle, which is movie novelizations, and that is Scared to Death, novelization by Matt Serafini. And I'm, a little ways into it, and I'll let you know how it is, well, when I finish it and record a review and then post that review, and then you'll know what I think. And following that will be another novelization. I'm not exactly sure. I'm looking over at the pile. I have 4 others in this book bundle, and I think it's either going to be Vampire Circus by Mark Morris. I believe that's the one that I chose of the Hammer horror books. It's either going to be that or X by Tim Waggoner. I haven't decided yet. The only real decision I've made is Prophecy is going to be in the middle, and Squirm, I believe, is going to be last, because Scared to Death is published by Encyclopocalypse, and Squirm was published by Encyclopocalypse. So, bookending with that publisher. But not entirely sure on the order. I almost did a huge pivot before I started getting into the novelizations, which I had talked about in previous videos, but I was going to put that aside and read Christmas or winter-themed books for December. But it turns out I don't have that many that I haven't already read. So that got shelved. If I finish these novelizations and it's still December, maybe I'll grab some Christmassy or winter books and read those. I do have a couple that I haven't read yet, but not enough to fill up a whole month, and certainly unable to go out and buy a bunch or order a bunch. But anyway, so that's what's going on reading-wise. I didn't really watch anything of note this week, the usual YouTube video stuff. Actually, quite a bit of Taskmaster outtakes and bloopers and things, the original British version, which I find hilarious. So a lot of that popping up on my YouTube. So I watched some of that, a lot of game stuff, and I played some games. I didn't get anything, no new games purchased. But we did play some games this week. So what I'm going to share, I don't know that this would be the bulk of the video. Feels like this is going to be kind of a short one. Not a lot to share for this weekly update. But last week, the day before Thanksgiving, I had a birthday, and I received, for my birthday, a gift certificate for Amazon. And today, the last thing that I ordered with that gift certificate finally arrived. That gift certificate did not, actually, I was going to say it didn't last long, but there's actually about, I think, less than $1 on it, but there's still a little bit on it. But let me show you what I got with that gift certificate. So essentially what I got for my birthday. And we'll start with the thing that arrived today. And that is this book called Cults That Kill: Probing the Underworld of Occult Crime by Larry Kahaner? I don't know. This is a book from 1988 that essentially, it's one of the things that contributed to the satanic panic of the 80s. Because according to this book, well, it mentions, just from the flap, it says, in the Midwest, an epidemic of animal mutilations leaves hundreds of cattle and horses dismembered with frighteningly surgical skill. In Michigan, a 15-year-old boy shoots his older brother in the head at point-blank range and kills him. In California, young children in daycare centers tell stories of prayers to Satan, animal and human sacrifices, and ritualized sexual abuse. In all three cases, and countless similar ones, the evidence gathered by authorities points to a frightening new criminal element threatening the peace and safety of us all. It's the world of occult crime, and it's the most discussed issue in law enforcement today. Goes on, talks about there's also evidence of nationwide connections between black magic groups and drug and pornography rings. Against this growing criminal problem stands a small army of dedicated investigators affectionately known as cult cops or ghostbusters by their peers. Piercing a once impenetrable veil of secrecy, this book details the phenomenon in crime through the eyes and with the voices of those trained to stop it. Again, it goes on, but it's a non-fiction book. Well, it's non-fiction, but essentially it asserts that there were satanic cults all across the American landscape, and these were the men and women who were going to bring them to justice. I'm fascinated by this sort of thing. There are some pictures in here, but fascinating book, hopefully, but fascinating subject, that I can say. So I got this used for like $8, hardback. Then the other book that I got for my birthday is Island of the Dead by Brian Keene, which, if I were to give the elevator pitch, and I don't know because I haven't read it yet, so I can't say this is exactly accurate, but I would say it's a zombie novel with Conan the Barbarian. It's a barbarian who, it says, plots his escape from a war galley transporting troops and mysterious weapon to far enemy shores. But when an apocalyptic storm at sea leaves Einar and his fellow captives shipwrecked on a strange, uncharted island, friend and foe alike must band together against a ravenous, steadily growing horde of the undead, and even worse dangers. So I'm a fan of Brian Keene's books, fan of zombie stories when they're well written, fan of Conan the Barbarian, even though this isn't Conan the Barbarian. So Island of the Dead seemed like a no-brainer. Even if I wasn't a fan of Brian Keene's stuff, it's probably a book I would have picked up. Looking forward to getting to this sometime in the next 30 years. And then finally, the last thing that I got with my birthday Amazon gift card, excuse me while I take a drink, just a little something for the parched throat. I got my calendar for next year. Very, very happy about this. This is the Mighty Marvel 2005 calendar, but if you look up here, it says a reissue of the 1975 classic. And this comes in a nice little case, a nice box. And surprisingly, it's barely more than if you just bought a cheapo calendar somewhere. But little flap opens up, spiral bound. So there's the front. But yes, so this is a reissue of 1975 calendar, and it has not just the wonderful artwork, which October, as usual, my favorite month. Oh, look at that. Wonderful artwork. What else? Anybody else I care to show? It's got Daredevil for November. I always check my birthday month. Well, this one's kind of nice. The Avengers there. But the other thing is, it's got all the months are just packed full of information. So this happens to be April 1st. It says the Avengers announced today that their membership roster is finally permanent and complete. April Fool. But it has a little list down here of important dates. So Passover, Palm Sunday, Good Friday, Easter, etc., Earth Day, Anzac Day in Australia and New Zealand. But it might have creators' birthdays and just all sorts of little illustrations and stuff. Now I just have a calendar right here next to me where I write down important reminders, which is basically my bills, when my bills are due, so I make sure they get paid. It'll be interesting trying to find space to write that down clearly on these pages, but there's the back of it, there's the front of it. Very excited about this calendar, very excited about the artwork, and you know, the days are all exactly the same as they were in 1975. Once, when I was very poor and I couldn't afford to get anybody anything for Christmas, I took an old calendar that just happened to match the dates for the upcoming year and just crossed out the year that it was from and put down the year that was coming up and gave that to my stepfather as a Christmas gift. All he cared about were the pictures. That's it, I think. That's all I've got. Really, nothing going on. Contacted work to see if there was any chance of me being called back to work in the next few weeks, and I sent a text to HR, and they have to get back to me. At least that's what they said. So we'll see what happens there. Coming up, apparently Smile 2 is on streaming now, and a lot of people raving about it. I've heard some people saying it's their favorite horror movie of the year that they've seen. People that enjoyed Smile saying Smile 2 is even better. People who didn't really enjoy Smile saying that Smile 2 is fantastic. I have not seen Smile. It looks to me as if they're both streaming on the same service, which I think was Peacock. So if I could put down a damn book once in a while, I will try to watch those two movies at the very least. I have a bunch of Christmas-themed movies. I have Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, 3, 4, and 5, I believe, and Silent Night, which is the remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night. So I have all those I can watch. I didn't count the first one because I watched it last year, I think. And then I have Black Christmas, which I have seen, the original, but that always makes for good Christmas viewing. But again, I would have to put a book down and not read while I spent time watching TV, watching a movie. So who knows if that's going to happen. And I think for now, that's all I've got for this weekly wrap up. I spent enough time on that calendar to stretch this video out just a little bit. So, question for this video, a very simple, simplistic question. Are you a purchaser of calendars? I usually have one hanging here, and then I usually get one of the little desktop ones, Marvel, generally, that I have on a dresser that's actually in my closet. So I'm not looking at it all the time, but it's there, and I, tear the page off every day and check it out. And I used to have a third one because I would there would be a real cheap, free Marvel Comics calendar from the comic book store, but I haven't been there in months. And that's what I would have over here, and I would write everything down, and then I'd have my nice fancy one by the door, and then the day-by-day one on the dresser. But since I haven't gotten the free one in 2 years, I've been putting my fancy one here, and there's a card game called Canvas, and the box looks like a work of art, and it's actually made in such a way that you can hang it on the wall. And so that's hanging where I used to have fancy calendars. But I like getting calendars. I love the artwork. And I typically save them if they're really nice because of the artwork. I will be saving the one that I have hanging here now. And definitely going to be saving this one. This is such a nice calendar. But I've gotten Star Wars, Cthulhu, horror themed. I always get, something that piques my interest. And I used to get for the day-by-day ones. There was back when I was in Iceland. I don't know if I've probably talked about this. When I was in Iceland, I had that little day-by-day desk calendar that was the Far Side. And every single day that I was in Iceland, when I tore the page off, I stuck it up on the wall in my barracks. And I started in the upper left-hand corner of one wall and just went across, sticking them across, and then down, and then across. And every single day, and there was one point where we were having an inspection. I'd been there for a while. It was someone new doing an inspection, and they told me afterwards that they thought it was wallpaper, that I had put wallpaper up on the wall, because the entire wall was covered with the Far Side. So yeah, for me, it's nice to know when my bills are due, so I can just look and say, oh, this week I got to pay this. Or more accurately, with this paycheck, I have to pay this. But it's mainly for the art. I like having things to look at. If you could see this entire room, I've talked about how that wall is covered in comic books, and there's 4 art prints up there, and there's posters, obviously the quilt. You can see some of my art prints over here, a little bit over there, my Spider-Woman, and there's stuff there, of course, books everywhere. I'm a visual dude. I like looking at stuff. But what about you? Do you even care what day it is? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, I'll have links for Instagram and Bluesky in the description below. And that's all I've got for you this week. So until next week, read more books.